or a dog in your lap,
Yeah.
and it's hugging you.
It's its arms wrapped around me.
Yeah.
All four of them.
Sweetest thing. Oh my
It's the
god.
sweetest feeling in the world.
It's a different experience for sure. Where are you guys from?
Chattanooga.
Okay, not too far. Where'd you hear about us?
You know, I just was doing research. It's my daughter's birthday.
Okay, well, happy birthday.
I was doing research about animal experiences and encounters because she was left with animals. And we found this place, and it was so odd because years ago, probably 5 years ago, we came here, and none of this was here.
Yeah.
We stayed in the Airbnb by the river.
Oh, but in the Riverside cabin?
Yeah.
You're, oh wow, well that's really interesting.
And we rode the family's horses,
Mhm.
and
Well,
I
that's really cool.
actually didn't know that we were coming back to the same place.
That's
'Cause it wasn't
interesting,
called
yeah.
Ocoee Farm
Yeah.
at that point. I
Mhm.
can't really remember what it was called.
Yeah, well then you got to see how big of a growth we've had then, because this whole barn here wouldn't have even been here.
Oh, no, none
Yeah.
of this was here.
Mhm.
It was horses and pigs, I think. And the pool. This was a long time ago. Yeah, so I love seeing
And that's how it all started. It all started
Yeah.
out with that, when they were just Airbnb in the
Right.
Riverside cabin.
Right.
And then slowly people started like asking if they could do horseback rides, or can we
Yes.
collect eggs with you, or
Yes,
can
that's
we
what we
swim in the
did.
pool?
We
Yeah,
collected
things like that.
eggs,
Mhm.
We rode the horses. We held baby kittens, I think.
Mhm.
I remember their dogs really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're big,
It feels
big.
like someone's giving you a hug. It's so sweet.
But what a great idea.
I want a pet. It actually kind of feels like a
But
baby
that was
not
not
working
giving
in our
you a
family.
hug. What would it?
A pet sloth.
Oh my
Being
gosh.
Yeah.
quiet would not be.
No,
It
yeah.
would be a nightmare.
And it's hard too, it's hard to contain all of your excitement because they're so cute, but you have
If
to
I were them,
be
I
real
would have
gentle.
like a specific room for the sloth that had big walls so that
Yes, soundproof room.
Yeah, this is a good little setup.
Yeah.
I like the walls. The paintings
Yeah.
are really pretty.
Yeah, she did a really good job.
So, I guess, is it like the stereotypes of sloths being very slow and quiet and tired? Is all true?
For the most part, the sloths in captivity do move around a lot more than the ones in the wild, just because they're fed higher quality diets. And obviously they wouldn't be exposed to any type of rice or sweet potatoes and dog food and things like that out there in the rainforest. So they do move around a little bit quicker because of that.
Yeah, they just have more energy.
Yeah. Now when you're petting there up on the head, don't go so far where he can see your fingertips. Just stay back further on the back so that he can't see your hand come up there.
That feels really nice. They're not nocturnal.
Some people consider them to be, they're more like diurnal. They are awake some throughout the day. They just don't move around as much because they really can't see in the daytime. They have a condition that's called rod monochromacy, and that means they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. The cone cells are what's responsible for seeing color, while rod cells pick up motion. So they are colorblind, but they see motion a lot better than we do. So something small out of the corner of my eye, like a leaf blowing on the floor or a little mouse or something, my brain's probably just going to deem that as insignificant, and I may not even react to it being there. But for a sloth, any little movements, like your fingertips coming over in front of his eyeballs, can be really scary for them, because in the rainforest, they're going to be holding onto that branch, just, minding their own business, and then out of the corner of their eye, they may see something just a little bit moving, and that's going to be a jaguar. A jaguar is not going to come barreling out on the branch after them. They're going to be sneaking up real slow, so their brain has to react to little movements like that and know to look and see. And if it looks like something's coming towards them, their first line of defense is to just get away from it. They want to get to the very end of that branch where it gets a lot thinner, because it may be able to support a sloth's weight, but probably not that jaguar's weight too. And so if the sloth gets out there first, and the jaguar presses the matter to go out there on the end of the branch as well, the branch will probably eventually break. And that's kind of best case scenario for the sloths, because they're built to be able to withstand falls from up to 100 feet in the air and be completely unharmed. Whereas a cat's going to be trying to land on all 4 feet as they're falling and probably break all 4 legs when they hit the ground. So it doesn't work out as well for the cats, but the sloths do just fine. They can go right back up the trees.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
And the legs are really sensitive on them as well, because if they're hanging onto the underside of that branch, the jaguar is gonna be on the top side. The first thing they're gonna be trying to bite and grab a hold of is gonna be a leg. And that's why their bellies are sensitive too. Because the only time anything ever touches a sloth's belly is if they have a baby or if they're being attacked by something. Try to avoid those areas.
Was he born here?
He wasn't born here, so both Dash and Zoe are both of our ambassador sloths, which means that they're, genuinely enjoy having an interaction like this. Whereas Flash, he's almost 7 years old and he's never been held. He's never been handled. This type of interaction for a sloth is very unusual. They don't naturally seek out human interaction. There has to be a lot of conditioning and training from a young age to get them to where they're comfortable with being around people. And so he came from a facility where they were conditioned to enjoy it. You can sit there, yeah.
His face is the most cutest thing.
He has a little rice grain on him. So, yeah.
It looks like one of the stuffed animals we have.
It does not, it's hard to believe that it's like really doing this.
Yeah.
Just so sweet.
Oh my gosh, it's literally like he's just giving me a hug.
Oh my god. I always tell people it's like the cutest / scariest thing ever for when they yawn, because you wouldn't expect that cute little face to have all those razor sharp teeth back there, but they do. But they only use those to grind up the leaves that they're eating, and not to eat meat or anything. But if you were to look at the skull of a sloth, or even the skeleton, without knowing what animal it was, you would definitely think they were like top of the food chain for sure, because of how incredibly long their front arms are and everything. And so you'd think that they were a meat eater or something like that, but in reality, they're just little. Kind of makes you second guess some of the dinosaurs, if they were actually as, ferocious as we think that they were, or if they were, actually just little cute fuzzballs after you add skin and hair and everything to them.
They still need their fresh food.
What is your background?
So I have a bachelor's degree in animal science, and that's what I had when I was hired on. My end goal is to become a veterinarian, and so it's a great, chance to get experience like that here. So I've been working here for about 4 months, but my goal is to hopefully be able to make it in my second application. So I'll be submitting that on Monday. Yeah. Should hear back by December if I get into UT, which is really where I want to go. So, yeah.
Oh my god, I love this so much.
That
I just wish you could just like have a pet sloth.
I wish I could just live like near an animal
Yeah.
station and always go see
Me
them.
too.
Well, I can tell you right now that if you owned a sloth, you wouldn't be able to make any income for yourself, because you would just be, you have to, taking care of a sloth is like a full-time job, and I already feel like I need 2 of me to be able to take care of just the 3 sloths that we have. Yeah, so it's a lot of upkeep. This environment is not natural for a sloth. East Tennessee weather is not hot and humid all the time like it is in the rainforest. And so we really have to be sure that their enclosures are always monitored, the humidity levels. We have to mist their enclosures once or twice a day to make sure it stays humid in there. We only open up their outdoor enclosures for them to go out when it's warm enough to do so. We always have to monitor that, because sometimes it'll drop. And for a sloth, they digest their food using a bacterial process, not an enzymatic process like we do. And we're born with those enzymes, but the sloths are not born with that bacteria, and they have to get it from somewhere. So for a wild sloth, they would have a whole bunch of moths living all throughout their fur. That would be the moss and algae that's living on the back of the sloth in the wild. And those moths will produce that bacteria in their waste. The sloths will lick that up and be able to digest their food. But if somebody were to go out and take out a wild sloth and like dunk it in some cleaner and get rid of all those moths and that moss and algae and everything, it would be approximately 2.5 weeks before that sloth would pass from starvation. Even with a full belly of food, they just wouldn't be able to digest any of it without that bacteria. And so that kind of beckons the question then here, how do the sloths digest their food? Because you can see it doesn't have any moths on him. So they actually get it from a different source. They get it from their mothers in captivity. Around day 3 is when the baby starts to be interested with what the mom's doing. And they'll lick her in the corners of her mouth while she's eating. And the bacteria that she has in her gut is also in her saliva, and so the baby will lick that up and start to develop their own colony. And they'll keep it the rest of their lives as long as we keep them in a stable environment. In the rainforest, temperatures are always fluctuating, and if it drops, the sloth's body temperature will as well, and that bacteria could be wiped out. And that's really detrimental for them. That's why they need those moths on their back. But in captivity, we don't need the moths because we keep them in a stable environment. So it's a really complicated process that goes on for them.
Just how like
Yeah.
connected
Mm-hmm.
and complicated. We can reliant upon other
Mm-hmm.
insects.
Yeah.
I know. I really want to get that carrot off his
I
face.
know, he hates to have his face cleaned. He's like a little toddler. Yeah.
I don't want him to disturb the bees.
Sweet Lucy, he's so happy.
His little tongue sticking out.
I found my puppet. Oh my gosh. I found my puppet.
I know we started just a little bit late, but it has been about half of our time, so we get 30 minutes total. So if you guys want to switch now, go ahead and do that. So you won't have to do anything. He's just going to climb up onto me, and then I'll transfer him over onto her.
Come on, bud.
Oh gosh, no way.
Oh my gosh, my finger smells like that.
If you guys want to switch chairs, it's a little bit easier in that chair to kind of slouch back into.
I was skipping a little bit.
Alright. So just a reminder, again, as we're holding, we just want to do real slow pets and have real calm, calm movements, slow movements and everything, and that's what was driving me crazy too. He's going to slowly open up his legs and wrap around your waist, and you'll put one hand underneath his booty to be able to support him, and then the other one you can place on his back. They're not so much like babies, they don't really like to be constricted in. He can do a whole, lean all the way back and then bring himself back in. When you really hold him in tight, they kind of start to panic. So you just place one hand on the back just to be able to pet him.
Oh
Oh, it feels so sweet. I know, he's literally just hugging you.
He just wrapped right up.
And remember the cat scritches, they don't really like, so we'll just use a slow, open hand.
See, it's literally just like, so cute. He's literally just hugging you. It's so precious.
Oh, buddy, you're looking for food. Is that what you're looking for?
He's like, I know what to do.
Yeah.
Double that.
Now, even though he might not be able to see it, their sense of smell is excellent, and so they will be able to smell that it's there. It's kind of like for us, if we lose one of our senses, our other senses tend to be heightened, and so for them, their sense of smell and their sense of hearing is really good.
Where are their ears?
It's just hidden back behind just a little bit of hair on both sides of their head. If you remind me when I go to get him here in just a little bit, I'll show you. If I go to show you right now, he's going to think that it's time to transfer over, and he'll be going to reach for me. They're very routine animals, and they like to do the same thing in the same way at the same time every single day. So for him, he knows when he sees my arm, like just a minute ago when I went to transfer him over, it took him a minute to see my arm, which is usually unusual for him. Usually right as soon as he feels me touch his back, he starts to reach up because he knows my arm's coming. Because they like to do the same thing, and it's not because he's not enjoying the time that he's spending with you guys. It's just because he knows right after about 15, 20 minutes it's time to transfer over, so he's ready to do that. They like to stick to that because if they get thrown off of their schedule, the rest of their day is just kind of whack, and they just, they can't really find the groove of what things are. And it's the same way with dogs and cats. They like to, they know what time their breakfast is, like certain little cues throughout the day, like after you brush your teeth or something, it's time
Also,
to eat.
when, they have to go outside to go to the restroom. Yeah, my grandpa, has this schedule. It's in the middle of the night to get out of the restroom, and
Yeah.
that's what the dogs do. But they're on the schedule, so I don't think he can stop it, so.
They're used to that.
Yeah. And so Dash, if he was fully booked for his entire day with sloth encounters, he would only have an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon, and that's it. We would never schedule him for more than that. Because he would gladly hold on to somebody for a lot longer because he does genuinely enjoy the interaction time. He does need time to be able to, have his own time to sleep and do whatever he wants to do, because there's some people that get really super excited about holding a sloth, and they'll pet a lot quicker even though I'm trying to calm them down. And that really amps them up too, because they feed off of our energy. If we're really slow and gentle and calm, they are too. But if we start getting real, energetic and everything, they start kind of wondering what's going on and why everything is moving so quickly. And that can get to kind of be overwhelming after a few of those encounters.
And sometimes we have a lot of our babies are like,
Yeah.
can I pet him? Okay.
They're a lot softer too than a lot of people think that they would be.
Gosh, their hair
Yeah.
I thought was coarse. It's not at all.
In the wild, it's a lot more coarse. So in the wild, they have a lot of that moss and algae on their fur. That would be their way of camouflaging in. But in captivity, they don't, they have the ability to grow it. They've just never been given the possibility to, because they have to get rained on multiple times for that to start to form. And it starts to, the temperature will drop when it's raining outside, so they usually, Flash will bring himself back in. If he's in his outdoor enclosure and it starts to sprinkle, he comes back in himself. Yeah, Zoe, sometimes she stays out a little bit longer, and I have to go in there and, she'll climb right onto me, because that's what she seeks out as well. I try to schedule after the next encounter after you guys, it's time to start cleaning everything up. And I try to schedule it where Zoe is sleeping so that I can go in there and clean up her enclosure. Because if she's awake and she sees me go in there and I'm ignoring her, she is trying her best to grab a hold of me, and she'll be going, meh, meh, while she's reaching out. They make little noises like that.
She is kind of like a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's like,
Yep.
pay attention.
Very much so, because they not only, are very cleany like that, but they explore a lot with their mouths because they can't see what's going on. So they like to put everything in their mouths like a toddler does. And then they also do not like their faces to be cleaned off either. And so, yeah.
It makes sense that they wouldn't have that instinct to clean themselves either if survival is growing.
And for them, their energy reserves are so low because in the wild they're just eating 95% leaf material, and leaves don't have a whole lot of caloric content. It takes calories to make energy, so since they don't have a whole lot of means to be able to do so, they really can't be quick animals.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to get that leg comfy.
He's like, where are you?
Oh.
You got an itch?
And they're oddly flexible with those back legs too.
Oh my gosh.
And another really interesting thing
It's
about
like
sloths.
they're just like, I want a hug.
Yep.
Just give me a hug and snuggle. See?
Another really cool thing about sloths is that they only go to the bathroom once a week. They only go about every 7 to 10 days. So when they do go to the bathroom, it's a massive pile and puddle that's there. They lose about 1/3 of their entire body weight. And they only do it once a week. It's beneficial for them because in the wild, when they get the urge to go to the bathroom, they have to come all the way down to the base of the tree to go to the bathroom. They don't ever not once go from the tops of the trees. And that's because for them, when they come down there, those moths will fly down off of the sloths, lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth, and then crawl back up before they lose their ride. And that's, we've already talked about how important those moths are to them, and so they need to go down there to use the bathroom so that it can always repopulate. Those moths can't fly like other moths can. If they could, they would just be able to poop up in the trees, and the flies or the moths would go down, and then,
It's running a little bit behind.
Thank you.
You just hold on to all of that.
Mm-hmm. And they don't even pee up in the tops of the trees either. It is hardwired into them to go all the way down. And it's not just to the floor, any old spot, it's to the same spot every single time so that those moths can always repopulate in that pile. Because last week's eggs will turn into this week's larva, and then this week's larva will be next week's moths that will crawl back up onto the sloth. And it also benefits the moths as well. It's a whole symbiotic relationship. So the moths will feed off of the moss and algae that's growing on the sloth's back, and they'll reproduce in the dung pile so they get transport to and from it. It works out well for both of them. Yeah.
She sometimes sits like this, but she doesn't roll her. Not
She doesn't have those long legs.
He doesn't yawn a bunch. He's so precious. I feel like he's gonna fall off me, but I know he's not.
He has enough core strength to completely let go with his front arms, reach all the way back, and then come back up. And they do that a lot in the trees too. If they're on one branch and there's a branch down below them that they're trying to reach those leaves, instead of having to go all the way back to the trunk of the tree, down and back out that branch, they'll just hold on to that branch with their back legs, with those back claws, let go with their front ones, reach down and grab that branch and pull it up to them to pick off those leaves.
It's almost it would
Yeah.
be so nice to be just a house sloth, just because you're just attention and simple, but and food.
Now, remember up around the head, we don't really want to move up there because that can be scary for them.
What is his name?
Dash.
Just looking for something. He to jump. Did you see that? That was really
Yeah,
Oh, that's
because
so
he just
cool.
can't see it coming, and then all of a sudden that movement of that touching right there can be kind of startling.
Are their nails so long to help them with grip?
Yeah, so he's are pretty short right now, but as they grow, their claws will continuously grow as well throughout their lives. They'll just dull down over time as they're flying. Yeah. But for a sloth, their claws work opposite to our hands, because for us, squeezing down is difficult to do. We're taking muscles and energy to do that. Holding onto a branch with all of our body weight hanging from it would be hard. And for us, just open-handed is natural. For a sloth, squeezing down around that branch is their relaxed state. So this for them is like this for us. So it's just like breathing. Holding on to the branch is just natural for them. So if a sloth were to pass away, holding onto the underside of a branch, they would continue to hang there until something rotted or knocked them off of the branch. Because this is our relaxed state. When we're sedated or when we pass away, our hands stay open. We don't all of a sudden tense up. So they're not going to all of a sudden tense up and open up those claws, because this is difficult for them to do. And so that's why you can feel him squeezing around your waist like that, because that's just natural for
He's
him.
squeezing so very long.
Yeah.
So how big is he expected to get?
The two-toed sloth can get up to be 20 pounds at their max. Usually they're around 15, 16 pounds. Both Flash and Zoe are both full grown, and they're around 15 pounds on average. Now it does fluctuate quite a bit. Right before they go to the bathroom, they can get up to be like 18 pounds, and then right afterwards drop down to like 13 or 14, and so it just kind of fluctuates throughout the week.
How heavy is he?
Dash is about 5.5 to 6.5 pounds.
He's a baby.
Yeah.
He's like, man, what's going
A
on?
lot of it, they look a lot bigger than they actually are because of all their hair. And especially as they get older, that hair will continuously grow out. Dash has lightened up quite a bit in color since we first got him. When we first got him, that dark color that he is in the top of his head is what color he was all over his body. And if you wore a dark colored shirt, you couldn't even really see him in pictures because he was so dark. And all sloths are born really dark like that because they're not born with that moss and algae already on their backs to camouflage them in. So they need a way to camouflage into their mothers. And if they're darker like that, they camouflage a lot better because all the greenery and stuff that's above them are causing a lot of shadows, and so they really can't be seen by other animals. Yep.
Those are actually really fun. They would just climb
Yeah.
on them.
And their metabolisms are extremely quick, just like they are. But the sloth, it takes them about 30 days to digest everything through their system from start to finish. And that's why they only get the urge to go to the bathroom about once a week. So everything moves extremely slow, and their digestive system only has a one-way valve that allows food to go in but not back out, whereas we have a two-way valve, so we can vomit or regurgitate our food. They can't. So they have to be really selective with what they eat and how much they eat, because if they eat something that doesn't sit right with them, they're stuck with that for another 30 days. Yeah.
I like your soft stuff that you said
Yeah.
in there.
That littlest one, that darker brown one, is actually the sloth that Zoe came with. When she came to us, she was conditioned to know that the keyword night-night meant to climb onto that, and then that whole stuffed animal would then be handed over to the person. Now that she's bigger than a stuffed animal is, it kind of gets in the way, but she still knows that keyword. That's why I have to say it lightly, because she is right there in that enclosure. Yeah. She said, "What's going on?"
So she and she would climb onto the slot and sleep.
Yeah.
Maybe you could try climbing. Maybe you could get a bigger version of that,
And we've tried that other one. That bigger one
and
is
then
there
kind of
too.
rub it center.
But it's just kind of a lot to hold on to because Zoe's already 15 pounds, and to add a stuffed animal onto that too, you're like, hold all this out here, so it doesn't work out as best. Yeah.
So maybe it's just like a big stuffy for her now.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And sometimes we'll set those in people's lap because with Zoe, she likes to be up here, up around your shoulders, snuggling in right next to your neck. Whereas Dash likes to be down low in your lap so that he can look up at you and look back around him to see what's going on. Their personalities are very different. Dash likes to be in the know at all times, and Zoe puts all of her trust and faith into people because she could be completely up here around your shoulders, snuggled in right beside your neck, and then completely out of nowhere, reach all the way backward, let go completely with her front legs, be reaching back and reaching over here, and just sometimes she'll grab the doorknob and kind of fiddle with the doorknob, and then just as soon as it came, it'll leave and she'll snuggle right back into their shoulders. But their personalities are very different. Even though they were raised the same way by the same breeder, they came from the same facility, but their bloodlines are completely different, so that could play a big deal into it.
That's true.
Yeah.
You never want to do it. I don't do that whenever he
Yeah.
doesn't like that. So yeah, just I mean, just
I think it's different. It's like, yeah, like muscle
he is
memory.
way smaller, like without his like.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell he's small?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like,
smaller than you
you
thought.
can kind of tell, like, see, this is not.
Is
I
there,
know.
do you interact with any of the other animals here?
A little bit,
sloths
yeah.
take a
The
lot of your
sloths
time.
are definitely my main priority. In the fall, it calms down a lot with the encounters, and I have time to do things with other animals. But they're still used to their schedules, and each Dash and Zoe both know that for a certain time in the morning and a certain time in the afternoon, they're supposed to be held. And so usually if they were to be fully booked, they'd have a full 2 hours. But if they don't have anything in the morning, I still at least hold them for 30 minutes just to keep them on that same routine schedule.
Yeah, so they don't get freaked out
Mhm.
by what's going on.
Yeah, because for them, it would be more stressful for them at this point to go a day with no interactions than it would to be fully booked up. Now for Flash, it's a lot different. He's never been handled like that, and so for him to be held for the first time, that would be a stressful event. It'd probably take a while to regain his trust. So if we are ever able to hold Flash, it'll be because he climbs onto us, not because we pull him down off the branch. So I know our time does go by quickly, but it has finished up. We started just a little bit late, so we went over. But you guys want to take any last pictures or anything?
Yes.
You guys,
What would you like to do for the photo? Just
Yeah.
this, obviously, is what you do.
Wait, can I
There we
take
go,
one
yeah.
on?
I got one. I got a lot of you too, but he's looking right at me.
you know, that little sweet potato on his nose.
I know, it is taking
Okay.
everything within me to just. It's pretty cute though that he's so unbothered. And,
I'm always bothered when I have people on my feet, so I'm just like, I would move closer, but I kind of feel
you guys are doing such a good job caring for him, so gently. I love the way his body just sort of melts.
And he can see as I start to move forward to him, he sees
He's
that
so
I'm coming.
flat. On his stomach, he's very flat.
Yeah.
He's just
I'll show you where his little ears are at too. I have him here.
Oh,
Just getting about a little bit of
see
hair
how
right
that
there.
looks like they're inside smaller he is?
Yeah.
Without his
There we go. He says no.
He bends and his
Yeah.
little booty in the air.
When we first got him, he was only like 2.5 pounds, and so he couldn't even wrap his legs around our waist. This is how we had to carry him all the time, so he's still used to it. But you can see really well that he's got those 2 claws on the front. He is considered to be a 2-toed sloth, but he's got 3 toes on the back. So all sloths will have 3 claws back there, and it's the front feet where they differ. So it can be kind of confusing, but it is the way that it is. I guess whoever deemed them to be 2-toed and 3-toed sloths just thought that all 4 limbs were legs. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I want to smell these.
Well, if you guys are ready, we'll come back out this way. Glad you guys got to come and spend some time with us. Did you have any other encounters?
And
No,
Yeah,
driving
she's
a
sleeping.
I kinda want
1970
one.
Four-door sky blue. And I would get pulled over just driving around
You guys
town.
have safe travels and
Here.
everything. If you guys are here,
So you guys hit the hand sanitizer right there, be good to go. That's what color my car was. That blue spirit, that's what color my 1970 old four-door was when we lived in Mountain Brook.
because you see,
You can see and hear it coming.
just helps us for people to be able to do what they say.
All right, did you guys still want to go to the petting farm?
Oh, yeah, you guys missed out.
All right, let's go. I know you guys got here a little late for the farm tour, so I was gonna finish it out with you.
All right. You guys don't care to sanitize, but you can squeeze in there.
So that's
From Birmingham.
Oh, wow. Did you just now get here, or did you have any other encounters?
We just drove here for this, and
Yeah?
then we're headed home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right.
it's a big day.
Well, whoever wants to hold first can sit in the blue chair. It's a lot easier to kind of relax back into that one. So this is Dash. Dash just turned a year old like 3 weeks ago, so he is still very much so a baby. Sloths in general have really poor eyesight, so we have to keep that in mind when we're handling them. We really only pet them down the middle of their backs here. Up around their heads, they're really sensitive to movement. So they see movement a lot better than we do. And for a sloth that has a lot of other animals that could potentially eat them in the wild, it can be a lot more alarming. And for that reason too, we try to avoid the chin scratches, because a lot of times he'll turn his head backwards and be looking back behind him to see what's going on.
And you just want to scratch his
Exactly, but because a cat might really like
Yeah.
that. But for a sloth, something touching around their neck all of a sudden they can't see coming can be kind of scary. As well as their legs, that's kind of their security blanket.
Okay.
A lot of people are tempted to pull them away and look at them because they look really cool, but if they don't have a leg holding on to you, it can be kind of scary for them, so we try to avoid it. When we do our pets, we'll just use an open hand. They don't like the scritches like a dog or a cat would, so we'll just go slow, real slow with that. He'll wrap his little legs just like this around your waist. You'll put one hand underneath his booty to be able to support him, and the other one you can place on his back. But don't feel like you have to really restrict him in. He can lean all the way backwards and pull himself back up. They're not like a baby in that way. So you just use the other hand just to pet him real slow. One hand underneath the booty.
There we go.
Let's see if he's hungry at all.
What do you think, bud?
Put this right over here. Look here. What do you think? Yeah, I'm not hungry right now. But Dash is a two-toed sloth. Makes more sense to say two-fingered sloth because it is the front where they've got the two, and on the back they actually have three. All sloths will have three toes on the back. Whoever, deemed them to be two and three-toed sloths, I guess just thought all four legs were, or all four limbs were legs. But I do consider the front ones to be arms for whatever reason. They use those a lot like while we do our arms. If they're holding on to one branch and there's a branch down below them, instead of going all the way to the trunk of the tree, down and then back out that branch, they can just reach down and grab that branch and pull it up to them to eat those leaves. A lot of people are surprised with how soft they are, because a lot of people have seen a lot of pictures and videos of wild sloths that have a lot of that moss and algae all over their backs, and they expect them to be a lot coarser. But in reality, sloths are actually pretty soft if they don't have any of that on their backs, and he has the ability to form that. He's just never had the possibility to, because he'd have to get rained on multiple times in a row to start to form all of that, which they get quite often in the rainforest. But if they had a preference, they would much rather be inside if it's raining. And
Is
Flash,
this where he lives right
Flash
now?
lives right in here, and Zoe
Okay.
lives in here. He's actually lived at the main house for the first year of his life, and Zoe did as well. Because when we first get them, they're only like 2.5 pounds, so they're really small. And they've been with their mother for the first, several months of their lives, just hanging on to her, and she's done all the climbing. So they're trying to navigate a new enclosure, new branches, how to figure out how to use their claws and everything, so they need a lot more around-the-clock care. But he's just now turned a year old, and so he's right at the age to start coming down here and spending more time together. This type of behavior for a sloth is not typical. Typically, sloths are very solitary animals that don't want to be holding on to people. They don't want to be even around any other sloths. But Dash and Zoe were both conditioned from a young age, even before they were weaned from their mothers, to be held for short amounts of time throughout the day and always have positive reinforcement with it, like a snack or something like that. And Mom's never stressed because she's done it before. She knows the routine. They're very routine-driven animals. They like to do the same thing every day. So she's never stressed, and Baby's never stressed, and always has a positive interaction. But
Do you love him?
Did you get one?
When you're an adult, you can make your own choices.
well, I'll tell you right now that owning a sloth as a pet is a terrible idea. Unfortunately, they don't live very long with people that have never owned a sloth before or don't know a whole lot about sloths, because actually the temperature of their environment will dictate whether or not they can digest their food. Because for sloths, they don't use an enzymatic process like we do. It doesn't matter what temperature it is, we're always going to be able to digest our food. A lot of other animals work that way too. But for a sloth, they use a bacterial process, and bacteria is really sensitive to temperature changes. And so we have to keep it a constant 79 degrees in here year round, and we only let them go into their outdoor enclosures when it's above 75 degrees. Because if it drops too low in temperature, their body temperature will as well, because it takes too much energy to maintain it for a sloth.
Yeah.
And so their body temperature will drop. The bacteria they're using to digest their food will be wiped out. And for a captive sloth that has no moths on their back, it will be approximately 2.5 weeks before they starve. For a wild sloth, they have a lot of moss and algae on their backs that those moths are feeding off of, and they have an entire symbiotic relationship with those moths, because those moths will produce that bacteria in their waste, and the sloths will lick that up. And so if the temperature drops outside in the rainforest, and their body temperature drops and some of that bacteria deteriorates, they have those moths on their back that they can always lick up more of that bacteria. But it's very different for a captive sloth, and so they require around the clock, care and attention. And I don't know a lot of people that keep their houses at 79 degrees, but that's what they require.
But when you're an adult,
Yeah.
you just come work here.
Yeah.
So cute.
We always been infatuated with sloths.
For a long
Oh,
time.
good. What's been your favorite thing about them?
I don't know.
Just them as a whole, how slow and peaceful they are. A lot of people consider sloths to be nocturnal animals because they really do move around a lot more at nighttime. They're kind of diurnal. They are awake a lot throughout the day. They just don't move around as much because they really can't see in the daytime. Their eyes, they have a condition that's called rod monochromacy, and that means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. And the cone cells are responsible for seeing color, whereas the rod cells pick up motion. So they are colorblind, but they see motion a lot better than we do. So something out of the corner of my eye, like a little mouse or a leaf blowing across the floor or something, my brain's just probably going to deem that as insignificant, and I might not even react to it. But for a sloth, even just a little bit of movement out of the current corner of their eye, they're going to react to it. They're going to look and process to see if it's something that they need to be scared of. Because in the wild, a jaguar is not going to just come barreling out on the end of that branch after the sloth. They're going to be creeping up real slow. So the sloth has to be able to see that and process that it's danger to get to the end of the branch first, because for them, they have essentially no defense mechanism. They want to get to the very end of that branch where it gets a lot thinner, where it may be able to support their weight, but probably not a jaguar's weight as well. So if the jaguar presses the matter to go out there, the branch eventually breaks. That's kind of best case scenario for the sloth, because they're built to be able to withstand a fall from 100 feet in the air and be completely unharmed. They're really built like trucks on the inside. You wouldn't think it by looking at them. On the outside, it looks pretty frail, but that's the way it works for them. So they have a total of 46 ribs. That's double what we have.
Oh, wow.
And it's 2 sets of 23. So the bottom 23 sets goes right up against their hip bones. So it goes all the way down to here, whereas mine stops here and all that's exposed. When they hit the floor, their bones will just flex under their body weight, unlike ours would break. Theirs is extremely flexible. So it'll just flex. They don't experience broken bones, and they don't really sustain internal damage either like we would, because they've got a lot of connective tissue that's holding all of their internal organs in the middle of their body cavity where they're supposed to be at. So when they hit the floor, they don't really, experience internal bleeding or internal damage like we would if we got into a car accident.
Not goat.
Yeah, it's a sheep actually. It's a sheep that looks like a goat, and her name, I think that's Geep, because she's the goat-looking sheep. We've got 2 of them. We've got Shoat and we've got Geep. Shoat is the sheep that looks like a goat, and Geep is the goat-looking sheep. They're both black belly sheep, but they're not white like the typical sheep is, and they've not got wool either because they're a hair sheep. They are classified to be sheep. The only really surefire way to tell by looking at one is to see if their tail goes up or down. A goat's tail will always go up and wave around like a flag. A sheep's tail will always go down, or it'll be docked, so it'll be real short. How'd you hear about us?
I think on the social media somewhere. Somehow, I don't remember
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. How long have you guys had it booked for?
Maybe a month or so.
Yeah.
But
You booked it for my birthday.
No,
yeah, my birthday is Monday. It was party or sloth encounter.
Yeah.
And she went sloth encounter. Oh, cool.
They have teeth on the top of his mouth.
They don't on the roof of their mouth, but they're on the sides. He may have rice stuck to the roof of his mouth.
Oh,
Sometimes it
maybe.
gets stuck up there. But they don't have any teeth in the front of their mouth. But on the sides, the first teeth that you come to will be 4 really sharp canines. And then back behind those, all of their molars are actually all pointed. They're not flat like ours are. So if you were to look at the skull of a sloth without knowing anything about the animal, you would definitely think they were like top of the food chain or a carnivore or something that would be eating meat because of how sharp they are. But in reality, they're just formed just right to be able to grind up the leaves that they're eating out of those trees. Grinding is a lot easier to process than it is to chomp. What do you think, bud? Did you decide you're hungry yet?
Oh, look at that little arm. I can't.
That arm has just as many bends in it as ours do. So they've got the shoulder, they've got the elbow, the wrist. But they're just a lot more flexible than ours are.
You wanna put it?
Just for a
It's
second.
been about half of our time. We'll transfer
Oh,
once.
I only
and
wanna
so-
hold him for
okay.
like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Just at the end, just,
Yeah.
this is
We'll
her
hold for
thing.
just a little bit longer. The transferring part is the only really uneasy part for them because they're for just a second, they're midair, not holding on to anything.
Yeah.
And like I said at the beginning, holding on is their security blanket.
Yeah.
So we do try to minimize the amount of times that we transfer over.
I do want to scratch your chin.
It's so tempting, is it not? Especially when sometimes he'll let go with his front claws and just
Yeah.
lean all the way back to see what's going on behind him. And a lot of people are tempted to touch that belly.
Yeah,
but for
I
a
just don't
sloth,
wanna hold him like a little baby
Yeah.
and rub your belly.
Yeah.
We love that. We love that.
Are you looking at Brody?
Do you like that baby talk?
I should Charlie if Charlie was here.
What do you think, buddy?
Baby talk.
You can see those tiny little pinpoint pupils too. They stay like that throughout the day. But at nighttime, they actually will dilate quite a bit. They see a lot better at night. Their vision is kind of like night goggle vision. If you've ever seen an action movie where you see some of that has that green hue, they probably don't have that green hue to them because they are colorblind. But that's what they see for as far as like if you're looking through night goggles, you really just see shapes and blobs. You can't really distinguish who it is that's moving around. You just see somebody. That's the same way for them. So him just looking at me, he can't tell who I am, but he hears my voice, and so he associates that with me. And I also tend to talk with my hands a lot, so he notices that and knows the difference.
Oh, Dad.
You're such a baby, Dad.
He's actually lightened up quite a bit in color from what he was when we first got him. When he was about 5 months old, he was dark like that on the top of his head all over his body. And his hair was a lot shorter at that point as well. So baby sloths are born really dark in color, whereas the mothers have all that moss and algae on their backs that they use to camouflage into the rest of the canopy of the rainforest. The baby sloths use that darker color to be able to camouflage into the chest of the mother because all the shadows up above them just kind of makes them blend in a lot better than if they were a light color. But as they get older, they lighten up quite a bit, and now he's kind of got that salt and pepper look going on.
Yeah.
More salt than pepper.
He's a little bit of an old man.
Yeah, going to lighten up quite a bit more than what he is now. It's typical of the two-toed Linnaeus sloths to have that lighter colored black back and then the darker head and legs. There's also a two-toed Hoffman sloth that is similar in every other way. They're native to different areas. One's in South and one's in North or the Central America. But the Hoffman sloths are that light color that the Linnaeus are on their backs all over. They don't have that darker on the head or the legs. But there's also three-toed sloths as well. You just don't really see a whole lot of those in captivity in North America anyway because their diets are really sensitive and they can really only eat the leaves of the sarcopia trees that only grow in South America. So to own a three-toed sloth in North America, you'd basically have to have a private jet to fly you to and from the rainforest once a week to get you the food for them. They don't do as well on the diets that the two-toed sloths can eat.
Oh.
I see your little nose. I see your little nose.
The way that they digest their food is actually really similar to the way that cows will digest their food. Cows are ruminant animals, which means they have 4 compartments to their stomach. And the first compartment is that rumen, which has a real big area to be able to grind up all the grass that they're eating. For a sloth, they're just grinding up the leaves that they're eating, but it works really similarly. And it, you know, in the whole process of fermenting all of those leaves, it creates a lot of gas in their stomach, and that's why sloths are actually pretty great swimmers. Their back end will just float because of all the gas that's in their stomach, and then just one paddle after the other with those really long front arms. It's kind of hard to tell on him because he's kind of scrunched up, but their front arms are twice as long as their back legs. So one swipe propels them forward pretty quickly. The fastest form of transportation for them is by water. And they can actually hold their breath for up to 30 minutes. They can slow their metabolism and everything down so much so that they don't even have to take a breath for every 30 minutes.
I'm not gonna pet your stomach.
It's so tender.
I know. You're such a sweet boy. How are you gonna leave them? Are you gonna come up here and work on the farm?
Be a pretty long drive to work every day.
But not impossible.
Yeah. How long of a drive was it for you guys?
3 hours.
3? That's not too bad.
It's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's been doable in one day.
Yeah.
But going through Chattanooga,
Yeah.
the worst.
Especially going home after work would be all the rush hour and
Yeah,
everything.
we'll probably hit it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everything for the sloth.
They're pretty great, especially on slower days. My job's pretty great because they're very routine animals and they like to have the same schedule every day. So Dash knows in the morning he has an hour of encounter at the same time every day, and in the afternoon he has another hour from 4 to 5. And so they stick to that schedule. And if he doesn't have an encounter for in the morning, he gets really restless and he'll be moving around a lot more. And if he sees somebody walk by him, he'll reach out and try and grab him to see if he can climb onto him. And Zoe does the same thing. And if they don't get any interaction during that time, the whole rest of their day is thrown off. And then in the afternoon, if we hold them then, it's like they're almost cranky at us for not having the encounter in the morning like that.
That's funny.
They're a lot more moving, they're a lot more active, even if our demeanors are real slow, which typically they feed off of our demeanor. If we're real slow and gentle, they are too. But if they have their schedule thrown off in the morning, if they don't have an interaction, then we hold them in the afternoon, they're a lot more active, don't matter how calm you are.
Yeah. It's like when I don't take the dog for a walk, the next day she's like a feral, like she's never seen outside
get the
before.
zoomies and everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, baby.
Oh, I see your teepees.
And they're a lot smarter animals than they look like they would be. Sometimes just by looking at him, I feel like all I can really see is just a little buffering signal on the back of his head. But they are pretty smart, and Dash does know his name. So he could be completely asleep, taking a nap, just, out of it, tongue hanging out of his mouth. And we could be having a conversation in the same room as him. But as soon as we start talking about him and saying his name over and over again, or change the sound of the tone of our voice and start talking to him like how I usually do when I first start to pick him up, he wakes up pretty quickly and he'll start uncovering himself. A weird quirk for Dash is that he likes to sleep in the floor of his enclosure.
Is this his?
And that's when he's down here, up at the main house he has a bigger enclosure. And he's going to start to come down here more full-time because he is a year old now, but like I said, when we first get him, they're only like 2 pounds.
Yeah.
So they have to have like around the clock, somebody watching for him and everything. But he likes to lay down on the floor of his enclosure and wrap himself up with a towel. And so that's why we always have to keep towels in there for him. But Dash would not make it for longer than a few hours in the rainforest. If we were to put him out there, they would have essentially no idea what to do.
How much time do we got left?
We started a little bit late. We started like 10 minutes late, so we got just 10 minutes or so left. Little tongue sticking out.
Does he gives kisses or anything like a dog does?
Not really. He'll lick, but it's not out of affection or anything. He's just licking. Sometimes if you've got sweat on your neck or something, he'll lick at that. Or moisturizer. Zoe really likes moisturizer. If you put something like that on your face, she'll lick all over your chin and everything. into the camel condo.
Yeah.
The sloths are not the biggest fan about when we've got kids that stay up there, but but it's really cool. I don't know if anybody's talked to you about the camel condo, but if you
Oh,
book
yeah.
to stay in it,
Yeah.
if you have like 6 to 10 people, it really makes it worth it, because there's 3 master bedrooms, and
Yeah,
there's
we
2
looked,
kid rooms.
And
Yeah,
it was like, there's just the 4 of us,
Mhm.
and, you know,
it's really cool up there. The
Yeah.
2 kids rooms are connected by a long hallway of fish tanks. It's a
Cute.
small hallway. It's